Well, good morning. I hope you can all hear me well. I'm calling in from London, and yes, I want to take some time this morning to really share with you what I feel is on the business agenda right now, as we look ahead from the pandemic and we think about how do we create a sustainable, viable, and socially sustainable future for businesses, for individuals, and for our countries. And I think when we look at the emerging future, we can really see three scenarios for how the next few years might be. No one can be sure exactly what might happen, but I think there are three key possibilities. The first is the one that everyone's getting excited about, where we have the equivalent of the roaring 20s that we saw in the 1920s, where coming out of the war, coming out of the pandemic, then we had a massive explosion of business growth, of social activity, of creativity, of new industries being born. And the belief is amongst some people that this is what's about to happen. All of that pent up demand, all that spending that wasn't done last year will start to happen. And certainly we see the IMF saying that actually the recovery is happening faster. They've increased their growth forecasts for this year from 5.5% to 6%. So that's one scenario. And we have to prepare for a range of scenarios, but obviously this is the most exciting. The second scenario is this idea of a K-shaped recovery, where some people do very well, their businesses grow, their personal wealth grows, they have more and more choice. But then the second leg are the businesses and the individuals who really suffered during the pandemic and who fail, and we see a growing split between society. And again, we have to think about, well, if that happens, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges for our organization to deliver a sustainable business in that environment? And then thirdly, again, there are a number of economists and others who are saying this might be a false dawn and that we might be heading into a very deep depression. But we have to remember that even if we have a deep economic recession, many, many interesting ideas, many new businesses are born. We only have to look at last year to see all the creativity and innovation that happened. So in this context, I want to just pick out 5 big opportunities that I think there are now for businesses going forward to create sustainable growth and to really deliver on the sustainability agenda. Obviously, the first that you've been talking about for a lot of this conference is about how do we move forward on the sustainable development goals, but also how do we do that in an inclusive way where we're not leaving segments of the population or entire countries behind. And I think right now what we can see is core to sustainability is people's mental health. We know it suffered during the pandemic. We know stress numbers are up. We know people have suffered a lot. And so how we build that into the sustainability agenda, I think, is key. And that's one of the biggest conversations I'm having with organizations now. It's risen to the top of their risk chart in terms of how do they make sure that people throughout the organization feel respected, feel trusted, and feel supported in the new environment. The second is, as part of that, is just how big the sustainability opportunity is. We can see that the estimates are that if we can get to net zero on emissions, on waste, and on energy consumption from the grid, i.e. we generate all our own energy, there's a $26 trillion opportunity there. And we know it's possible. We know many businesses are targeting that. We've seen cities like Glasgow, Copenhagen targeting getting to net zero by 2025. And we're seeing developments that have been done 20 years ago, like the one on the screen, which is BedZ in the UK, where they're running on a net zero model and have been for nearly 20 years. So we know it's possible. The challenge now is to take the ideas that we see working in some places and really scale them up. And that's where there's an incredible commercial opportunity for businesses all around the world and in Turkey. not even to innovate with creating new ideas, but just to take what's working elsewhere and apply it quickly and really see that green premium coming through. The next is we recognize that there are a whole range of fields in science and technology that are moving exponentially. They create the potential for new business sectors, for radically different products and services, but also to deliver much more sustainable solutions which require less energy, which generate less waste, and which have less emissions associated with them. And we can see that that's already happening in many of our sectors. We're starting to use these developments or we're starting to research them. And I see that happening in businesses all around the world. The third big shift that I think is really becoming clear is how important digital has become. We can't do business now without digital technology. And we see it impacting every sector. And we see how 5 of the 6 biggest companies in the world after the Saudi oil company are technology companies. In 2019, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon all reached a $1 trillion valuation. Last year, Apple cost $2 trillion. And now it hovers around $2 trillion a lot of the time. To put that in context, even at $1 trillion, that means that if you added together all these companies, you would still not have one Apple. That's how important these companies have become. That's how important digital has become. And that's why every business I know is really trying to raise their digital literacy to make sure people truly understand the technology and how to make it work in their organization and how to use it to increase efficiency, but also reduce the organization's ecosystem footprint. And we see some incredible things happening with the technology, changing the game. So in investment, we're seeing people now able to buy a fraction of a share. If you go to a normal stockbroker and you try to buy an Amazon share, it's about $3,400. Now these new platforms are saying, well, you can buy 1/100th of a share with $34. We're also seeing really clever ideas that say, okay, when I go to buy a coffee for 26 lira, then you can round that up to 30 lira and you can make an investment with those extra 4 lira, maybe in the company who you're buying from. And actually, when you make a purchase, maybe you also make an investment in that company. We're seeing stores like Amazon Go and Amazon Fresh, where there are literally no employees. You go in, you pick up the food, you walk out. It's all done by technology. We're seeing fun applications in some cases where this app on your phone can tell you how old your skin looks compared to your actual age and how to improve your skin health. But we see very real applications of the technology now in improving health and wellness and our personal sustainability. And then we're seeing the rise of the crypto economy. Many people thought this was a fad when Bitcoin emerged. Now there are over 6,500 digital currencies around the world. And we're starting to see that there's a very new economic model emerging with radically different ideas. And to put this in context, the crypto economy at the start of 2020 was worth about $192 billion. At the start of 2020, that had grown to $776 billion. Sorry, the start of 2021. Today, just a few months later, it's worth $2 trillion. That is how fast things are moving. And we need to understand that pace of change and how it's becoming part of the global economy. We're seeing Tesla saying that they've taken $1.5 billion from their balance sheet and invested it in cryptocurrency, mainly in Bitcoin. Even the day they announced that, the price of Bitcoin went up 20%. So they added $300 billion to their market cap as an organization. And just to give you an idea of how different technology enables us to do things and how crypto is enabling us to do things. This is an example of an insurance company, Teambrella, which has no employees. It only exists in digital. But the really interesting thing is you can make a profit on your insurance premium. So when you join, you don't actually pay any money in. You just set it aside in your digital wallet. So if there are no claims in the year, you don't pay anything. But the interesting thing is, if I set aside, let's say 2,000 lira in digital currency, that actually will probably be worth more at the end of the year. So I'm making money for my insurance policy. And we're seeing crazy ideas that we would never have thought possible emerging across the crypto economy. And a year ago, none of my clients wanted to understand this. Now that is the most important thing they all want to talk about. And with all of this, that our clients are saying to us, and we're seeing businesses around the world saying, is how do we respond to all this change with foresight? How do we look forward, understand what's changing, bring the ideas in to drive innovation? So let me give you 10 quick tactics for doing that, for driving it. The first is we've got to get better at prioritizing, finding those things that block progress in our organization. And that means being much better at prioritizing initiatives and stopping the things that are making no progress or will make no real difference, doing fewer things and doing them well. Secondly, it's about getting better at our technology. Stop blaming the technology and let's make sure we actually get it working right. Get a centralized database where we're not arguing about which data is true. Get our applications working properly, because without that, we really are slowing ourselves down. And the third is really upping our capability as an organization, raising our skill levels so we can respond to what's coming. I think it's very important that the leaders as well start to put on this mask of being a futurist, starting to demonstrate this idea of looking outside, looking ahead and bringing those ideas in and challenging everything we're doing by saying, well, okay, this is our plan, but how well are you taking account of what's coming next? How well are you taking account of the sustainability agenda and the ideas that are coming out around us and coming towards us from the future? The third is the pandemic has shown us how important it is to be prepared. It's a core now, understanding the risks, understanding the opportunities. And that means making sure that we take those foresight and learning skills into the whole organization, making sure that everyone is learning all the time and bringing ideas back to their own job, but to the wider organization. That also means embedding as a core process the use of horizon scanning and scenario planning to help us think about what's coming, what are the different possibilities, and really laying out that 1 to 3 year roadmap for how we drive the growth of our business, but also how we make sure that we're dealing with any new shifts and challenges that might come, and how we're building out that ecosystem of partners to help us create future growth and in a sustainable way. The next is allowing ourselves to ask the really difficult questions. What if something happened that halved our revenues within 1 week? What if a competitor came to market with a similar offering to ours at half the price? Asking those really big and difficult questions of our own organization, and then on a weekly basis, taking an issue and really working it through to say, how would we deal with that? And then doing rapid experiments with new ideas as to how we might respond. We also need to think about how do we keep making a difference, and how do we get on the radars of bigger brands so we can partner with them. This is a really good idea that I like. This is a handbag company. Then what they do is they take the fire hoses thrown away by the UK fire service, over 70 tons a year. They don't pay anything for it. The fire service used to pay £400 a ton to throw it away. Now they take it, they have a contract to take that until 2036, and they turn it into these very high-end handbags, and then they give half of the profit back to the fire service charity. So everyone wins. Now big brands like Burberry and others are saying, can we partner with you? Can you take our waste and turn it into something useful, and then again share the profits with good causes? The next is this idea of learning, making sure that everyone is learning something all the time. It doesn't matter if it's work related or personal. How do we make sure people are learning how to be more creative, more open to ideas, more willing to experiment, and in particular raising our digital literacy? Because if we're not learning, we're moving backwards. The next challenge is about being willing to rethink the way business is done. The crypto economy is challenging that. But when we see the new businesses being born, it's almost like they're coming from a different planet. This company that is a really good example of that. This is Earthby from Italy. They're involved in creating biodegradable and compostable bioplastics, so 100% sustainable. But their model is really interesting in that all of their processes were designed with the best academics. They use blockchain technology to track everything that happens in their production process, so it's completely transparent and they can't change the data, so it's very clear what's going on. And then they're actually funding themselves using their own cryptocurrency, and clients can buy products and services from them using that cryptocurrency and getting a discount for it. So it's a radically different model, but we're seeing more and more of those ideas. And the question is not why should we ignore them, but how do we investigate them and how do we understand what they could mean and how they might impact our business or create new opportunities for us. Really important as well is this ninth factor, which is about stopping things. We're very good at starting things, but if we were to ask our people, what would they stop tomorrow that would create some time, some space to think about these new ideas and drive change? And our organizations get very complex very quickly. How do we simplify? How do we stop? What can we stop? What are the meetings, the processes, the reports that add no value? And finally, we've all got good at a certain dance routine. We know how to sell in our market. We know how to develop new products. We know how to respond to relatively small changes in the marketplace. But now the world is changing so fast, we're having to learn new dance routines. And we may not be very good at them to start off with, but we have to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable most of the time and constantly learning new dance steps, looking a bit awkward on the dance floor until we get good at these things and learning to learn multiple dances at the same time. So I think that's a very fast run through some of the ideas and factors that are shaping the future and really priorities for our business in terms of how we tap into this. And I like this quote from Gandhi because I think it captures very well the challenge we face. And just as a final gift to you, we've agreed to give anyone paying attention to this presentation today, you can have a free subscription to our newsletter that really explores many of these ideas on a regular basis. So if you want that constant flow of ideas, you can have a 1-year subscription to it for free. Just take a picture of what's on the screen. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation and come back to the forum to see if we have any questions or comments.